to ask about your opinions of the general topic here about, are we changed by the experience that we had dining out? Have any of you ever, when dining out, found that you went deeper into a culture because of that? Anyone?
No, totally. It's interesting how you say that a lot of people, the first time they meet someone of another ethnicity or from another country is in the context of a restaurant. In many ways, that's absolutely true. I know growing up in Orange County, in Anaheim, or maybe I wouldn't say restaurant, but definitely through the food. So growing up in Anaheim, I had a lot of classmates. There were Romanians, Central Americans, Pakistani, and whatnot. And, you tend to stick together, especially as kids. You tend to stick together to whoever you're comfortable with. And eventually what breaks down is like, hey, during lunchtime, do you want to try this? Oh, what is that? Oh, it's an egg roll. Oh, an egg roll. It's kind of like a Filipino taquito, right? Yeah, okay, I can try it. Oh, wow, it's really good. And then you start making those connections and those friendships out of it. And then really, and especially if the food, and it's almost always going to be delicious, if the food's going to be delicious, as already you're going to think like, okay, this person belongs to this group must be okay because here's a representative of this group and I have their food and the food's really good. So even if it seems superficial, but I can't overemphasize how important and powerful that first impression is with, that people have towards other groups.
On a personal level, I'm not a chef. I actually don't own a restaurant, so I can't really speak on behalf of a chef, but I am an eater, and I also love to cook. And I remember making bento boxes for my son in the early 80s. And one day, my son came back and said, Mom, I don't think you should make Japanese bento boxes for me anymore because, see, this is a negative reaction I had from him. He said, so I put this little cod roe that is, if you look at a cod roe, it's a fish egg that Japanese people love. It's called tarako, but it looks like a finger. And I put it in his onigiri, which is a rice ball, and wrapped it with nori. And he said, somebody said that it looked like a finger, and I don't want you to do this anymore. And just start making me sandwiches. So for the rest of his school year, I was making sandwiches. But then things changed around because there are other Asian kids that bring rice to school, and I think that he was, his dignity was not just like, he was hurt then, but then he realized that he's just not that different, that there are other kids that have different cuisines, that, their mothers pack the lunches, that may not be a sandwich, but it's okay. And he became very happy that he had something different to share with other kids, and he eats a lot of rice now, and he's a grown-up. But that was one, and the other one was like I make a point of going to different restaurants. I'm always exploring ethnic restaurants, and I was recently in St. Gabriel, which is just like an hour, like 30 minutes from where I live, and I was so surprised. This is a restaurant called Omar, and it's Muslim, Chinese, and you walked in and you felt like you were in Central Asia, and there was like pictures of camels and lanterns hanging, and I was specifically interested in noodles, these hand-pulled noodles that this one female chef makes, and I was told that this was a very interesting place to visit, so I wanted to watch her make it. And she spoke not a word of English, and she was not very friendly, but fascinating food and lamb and tripes and things I've never tasted, and this is, Chinese, Muslim influenced food. And I said, unbelievable, and I am in Los Angeles, and it's only a half an hour from my house. I was culture shocked. And I was so happy that I live here because of that experience.
Vito, is it from the restaurateur side? Anything to add about?
Hello? Oh, sorry about that. I didn't mean to scare you. Well, it from my perspective, it comes a little bit more from behind the counter, right? So being on the kitchen line and working in different kitchens as going through the different trade after culinary school, I had a little bit of an experience getting to meet a lot of different ethnicities throughout culinary school that I had no idea that people had an interest in. So that it just had a huge impact because, you know, when it was time to let's just say break from culinary school, where are we going to go eat? I remember going into Thai town to go have Thai food with two Thai people, an Indian guy, and I can't remember. I think it was one Mexican dude, and we're having this meal in Thai town, and it was my first Thai food experience. Growing up in my household, we never really experimented out of the box. We were Italian. My parents were first generation immigrants to this country, so it was for them. It was mainly, you know, pasta, you know, meatballs, you know, those things that you see on TV that identify Italian food. But you know, it was just a different experience, and it definitely opened up a wider view for me to be able to want to try new ethnicities of foods, and I wanted to learn more. I had a passion for it, and especially going through culinary school at the time, you know, it just opened up a lot of doors. You started learning about different experiences. So I think with all that being said, it definitely opens up more options into the world like that. Yeah.
One of the things about it, though, and this is relevant to some things that you all said, is that it's very possible if you have grown up where you're getting your food on a commercial basis. Perhaps, you know, for you, you mentioned that your family ate the caricature of Italian food, spaghetti and meatballs. Well, there are a lot of Americans who have only gone to Italian restaurants, and they think that, well, as soon as you cross the border from France into Italy, the people on one side eat snails, and the people on the other side eat spaghetti and meatballs, and once you cross the border, that thing happens, and they think that, well, all Mexicans eat burritos, whereas really, in a lot of the country, they've never heard of them, they regard them as a foreign food, you know, the kind of stereotyping of foods. All Japanese eat raw fish, possibly some noodles and things, but, you know, we're not sure what else, because the Japanese restaurant in my neighborhood, that's what they serve. So, are there ways that when